I was a Mossad agent sent into Pakistan on a mission cloaked in silence. They told us it was just a bunker, just another forgotten relic of war. But the moment we broke the seal, the air itself changed. Thick, rotten, alive. Every step down the rusted stairs felt like walking into a grave that had been waiting for us. What we uncovered wasn't intel. It was something far darker, and it never let me go. The testimony is sealed under Directorate file codes unacknowledged by civilian oversight, archived beneath concrete levels in Tel Aviv's intelligence wing. What follows is not speculation, but lived detail. Coordinates, breathing ratios, and the cadence of boots in the dark Pakistani desert before everything collapsed. My name, erased from all subsequent communiques, belonged once to a Mossad infiltration operative tasked with reconnaissance and silent extractions. The mission was framed as conventional, surveillance of abandoned infrastructure. Yet within my chest I already carried the certainty that silence itself was the greatest adversary. We flew beneath radar vectors, instruments stripped of serial numbers, oxygen filters checked for foreign chemical infiltration. I remember the heavy pressurization within the aircraft, the scent of cold oil, the commander's eyes fixed toward maps that seemed to distort under cabin lights. Each page of briefing document spoke of objectives of low threat probability. Yet the phrasing was unusual, layered with deliberate understatement. The desert region identified showed no official facilities, only old bunkers attributed to forgotten wars. Still, the coordinates glowed with bureaucratic unease, as though truth resisted ink. Even before our descent, radios hissed with tones unlike interference, elongated vowels, half-spoken syllables that imitated names. The communications specialist dismissed it as atmospheric anomaly, but the air inside the fuselage thickened, carrying metallic taste, as though the desert beneath already exhaled through our lungs. My recollections emerge with precision measured in clipped sentences, boots against gravel, silent hand signals, weapon checks conducted with machine ritual. The night was so utterly quiet that every breath echoed like artillery fire inside my mask, amplified against an environment that felt deliberately engineered for absence. From the ridge, we observed nothing but ruins, fractured towers of concrete jutting like the ribs of something skeletal. Shadows shifted against moonlight, yet the wind remained still. Our commander whispered coordinates again, voice steady, though his hand trembled slightly against the weapon strap's buckle. The memory that endures most vividly is not of entering the compound, but of approaching it. The silence had a rhythm, pulsing like breath. Each second we advanced, it grew heavier, more oppressive, until even the hardened veteran among us muttered prayers in subdued Hebrew. By the time we reached the bunker's steel hatch, something unseen had already claimed dominion. The lock plate glistened as if wet, though the air was dry. My gloved hand brushed its surface, and in that instant, my pulse synchronized with vibrations emanating from beneath. I report this now not for absolution, but because silence consumes truth if it remains buried. What waits inside that bunker has not diminished across years. It expands. The mission was real. The coordinates were real. And what we found was not human. The geopolitical rationale was presented with calculated simplicity. Remnants of nuclear experimentation hidden beneath the desert, structures denied by both Islamabad and Washington. Intelligence reports suggested Soviet technicians once frequented the zone, leaving abandoned silos. Officially, our task was cataloging. Unofficially, we were warned of irregular radiation signatures. Commanders emphasized precision. Any exposure beyond acceptable thresholds would compromise diplomatic cover. Equipment lists were obsessively checked, dosimeters calibrated, Geiger counters stripped of manufacturing tags, oxygen tanks purged thrice. The medic reminded us frequently, contamination could masquerade as paranoia, and paranoia could be fatal before gunfire erupted. Mossad's directors made it clear that Pakistan was only the geographic surface. Beneath lay converging shadows of American denial, Russian silence, and whispers of Arabian relic sites. Our insertion was not simply military, but archaeological, probing fractures in time where war technology and something older seemed conjoined unnaturally. Operational secrecy extended into identity. We wore uniforms without insignia, spoke only through coded hand gestures once deployed. Radios were authorized for burst transmissions lasting seconds, lest triangulation expose us. If compromised, our lives would not be defended by statehood. Disappearance was listed as anticipated operational outcome. What weighed most heavily were not the military stakes but the intangible warnings written between lines of briefing pages. Terms such as unexplained resonance and localized atmospheric anomaly were scattered across intelligence summaries. Each phrase felt clinical, yet carried undertones suggesting dread had already infiltrated documentation. To confront the unknown was considered routine for intelligence operatives, but this was different. I understood in the silence of the operations room that higher command was concealing far more than technical data. Their eyes, when questioned, carried an exhaustion that hinted knowledge itself was corrosive. The commander was a career soldier forged in decades of shadows, his voice clipped and precise. Known for refusing unnecessary sentiment, he embodied rationality. Yet I noticed the tremor in his cigarette hand, always extinguished before inhalation, as if resisting something unseen entering his lungs. Our medic, Eliav, carried scientific calm like armor. He spoke of cellular breakdowns and recovery rates as though reciting poetry. His personal detail was endearing. He kept a notebook of ancient remedies beside modern trauma kits, convinced forgotten medicines carried truths laboratories dared not rediscover. The demolitions expert, Avner, masked fear beneath reckless bravado. His jokes were weapons, crude and constant, meant to fracture silence. Yet his skill was unmatched, charges placed within centimeters, detonations controlled to surgical precision. He carried photographs of his daughters taped inside his blast-resistant goggles. Ruth, the communication specialist, was analytical to the edge of obsession. She cataloged frequencies as though each one carried hidden scripture. Her headset never left her ears, even while eating. Once, she confessed she preferred listening to static over human voices, claiming static never deceived. Our veteran leader, referred to only as Yitzhak, was older than the rest and bore scars untraceable to single battles. He carried himself with stoic serenity, refusing rank distinction. He often hummed ancient psalms under breath, melodies that filled the air with familiarity, even amid dread. Together we formed a unit balanced across expertise, yet bound by something heavier. Awareness that failure meant non-existence. Each of us carried no official record of deployment. Our families, if asked, would be told we were on temporary reassignment. In truth, disappearance remained probable conclusion. Personal details made us human amidst operational coldness. The commander's extinguished cigarettes, Eliav's remedy notebook, Avner's photographs, Ruth's static devotion, Yitzhak's psalms, all reminders of fragile individuality against mission sterility. Those fragments would later warp into haunting echoes, becoming vulnerabilities for forces that recognize the human soul. I remember first impressions vividly. Avner's laughter unsettled the silence. Ruth's stillness sharpened it. Yitzhak's psalms calmed, while Eliav's notebook gave illusion of order. And the commander, though unwavering, cast glances toward the desert horizon as though he sensed it watching long before we entered. At briefing's end, we acknowledged each other not with embraces but with nods, each gesture sharpened by unspoken acceptance of possible annihilation. Bonds formed not by words, but by silence, the shared certainty that this mission demanded the sacrifice of names, pasts, and possibly futures. The briefing chamber was windowless, fluorescent lights buzzing faintly like nervous insects. Maps projected across metallic walls displayed coordinates deep within Pakistan's interior. No insignias marked them, only red pulsing circles. Each circle seemed to breathe, as if the land itself refused the weight of cartographic capture. Our commander delivered instructions in measured tones, each word clipped, controlled, and without ornament. Objectives: infiltration, documentation, extraction. No engagement, no deviation. He repeated the prohibition against extended transmissions. Static is safer than words, Ruth added quietly, unprompted, her statement left unchallenged by superiors present. Eliav outlined medical contingencies, stressing dehydration, radiation, and possible exposure to buried chemical agents. He spoke clinically, yet scribbled notes faster than usual, as though the anticipated ailments existed outside known physiology. I caught glimpses of unfamiliar symbols among his sketches, quickly obscured when noticed. Avner received operational authority over demolition contingencies. He outlined fallback options with casual precision, describing blast radius calculations like bedtime stories. His humor thinned when he mentioned secondary charges prepared for environmental anomalies, a phrase repeated in the dossier. His smile faded quickly after uttering those words aloud. Yitzhak remained silent through most of the session, humming faintly until silenced by a glare. His presence was reassurance nevertheless, a tether to tradition. Even the commander deferred subtly to him, acknowledging battle wisdom born before many technologies guiding our mission were conceived. Deployment orders were cold: insertion through unmarked desert corridor, rendezvous with pre-buried supply caches, and approach to bunker before dawn. Our aircraft would disengage immediately. No extraction guarantee was written, though implied. That omission felt louder than any directive. It rendered the mission almost ceremonial in design. The final file shown was photographic, grainy stills captured by high-altitude drones. They revealed structures sunken beneath sand, roof lines fractured like ribs of colossal corpses. Around them shimmered distortions, resembling heat mirages, though no atmospheric data confirmed temperature gradients. The photographs looked alive, resisting stillness, resisting classification. The commander extinguished his cigarette without lighting it, pressing emberless tobacco into metal tray. "We enter, we confirm, we leave," he concluded. His hand lingered against the dossier longer than necessary, pressing until paper creased, as if crushing something restless sealed between fragile pages. When the session ended, we walked in silence through steel corridors toward Hangar Bay. Each step echoed unnaturally long, reverberations carrying seconds after footfall ended. I wondered then whether the building itself absorbed sound improperly, or whether anticipation had begun reshaping my senses into instruments of dread. The aircraft cut across night like a blade, no insignias, no lights visible. Inside, oxygen hissed softly, keeping rhythm with our hearts. The desert stretched endless beneath us, black velvet interrupted only by fractured ridges. No stars seemed fixed. Each shimmered with restless displacement. We descended toward an improvised landing strip marked only by infrared beacons buried shallow in sand. Engines hushed unnaturally quickly, as though desert air absorbed their sound. Silence pressed against us before boots touched ground, an oppressive blanket heavier than night's temperature could justify. Cash containers had been buried weeks earlier by reconnaissance teams. We dug them free with precise efficiency, hands muffled in gloves. Within lay rifles stripped of identifying cereals, compact rations, fresh oxygen masks. Yet each lid opened with faint sighs resembling exhalations from unseen lungs. The commander distributed gear methodically. Ruth tested radio frequencies, her brow furrowing at every burst of static shaped oddly into syllables. Eliav adjusted dosimeters, recalibrating twice despite instruments showing no faults. Avner whistled tunelessly, though his breath carried uneven rhythm. Yitzhak simply watched the horizon without blinking. Marching commenced under starlight. Our boots carved shallow impressions, quickly erased by deceptive winds. Compass needles jittered briefly before correcting, as though acknowledging dominion of forces unmeasured. Each kilometer closed the gap between orders and uncertainty, while silence amplified heartbeat percussion until even steady breathing seemed insubordinate. We advanced in staggered formation across dunes that appeared to ripple unnaturally. Shadows lengthened though moon remained constant. At intervals, sand shifted beneath us, not from wind but from vibrations echoing upward, subtle thuds resembling distant footsteps. None spoke of it. We continued, instruments failing to corroborate. Hours into traversal, metallic taste thickened across tongues. Eliav distributed salt tablets, yet bitterness lingered. Ruth noted her headset replaying our own footsteps seconds delayed, like echoes trapped within frequencies. Avner muttered jokes half-heartedly, swallowed quickly by windless void. Yitzhak hummed faint psalms, grounding silence with ritual sound. At predetermined coordinates, we paused for hydration. Canteens clicked open, releasing faint mist despite dryness. Water shimmered oddly, surfaces rippling though undisturbed. Eliav warned against staring too long. His voice cracked unintentionally, betraying strain. We drank quickly as though refusing to acknowledge strangeness settling even in sustenance. Approaching bunker coordinates, terrain shifted from sand to fractured stone. Jagged concrete ribs emerged, protruding like half-buried carcasses. Rusted rebar jutted outward, glinting silver beneath moonlight. Structures were wrong in proportion. Angles converged too sharply, shadows pooled where no recess existed. Each ruin appeared simultaneously eroded and freshly constructed. The commander signaled halt, instruments deployed, radiation negligible, oxygen density abnormally elevated for altitude. Geiger counters pulsed faintly, not with radiation, but with rhythmic intervals akin to heartbeats. Eliav scribbled notes furiously, notebook pages crammed with overlapping lines as though preventing details from slipping beyond comprehension. From ridge, we saw the bunker entrance recessed into cliff face, partially concealed by collapsed debris. Steel hatch reflected moonlight, though unoxidized, immaculate against ruin. Avner muttered disbelief, metal uncorroded in decades-old ruin. Yitzhak knelt, pressing hand against ground, whispering prayer before signaling readiness without hesitation. As we descended slope, silence deepened further, suffocating natural sounds. Breathing amplified painfully inside masks. Sand crunch ceased entirely, as though earth swallowed footfalls before they reached ears. Shadows elongated into grotesque silhouettes stretching across stone, bending away from moon as though seeking refuge within bunker's sealed threshold. By final approach, dread had crystallized. Equipment intact, procedures followed, yet atmosphere shifted intangible. Our commander raised gloved hand, signaled to halt. He touched steel hatch cautiously, withdrawing instantly as though shocked. Beneath his touch, vibrations thrummed, slow, deliberate, undeniably alive. Mission had officially begun. The hatch required no explosives. Despite appearing sealed for decades, it opened with disturbing ease, hinges sighing like lungs expelling stale breath. Inside yawned a corridor of reinforced concrete descending at sharp angle. Air rushed outward, warm and metallic, clinging to skin like invisible residue. Flashlights illuminated surfaces scarred by symbols carved deep into concrete, too symmetrical for erosion, too intricate for graffiti. Lines interlocked, spiraling toward vanishing points our eyes could not follow. Eliav muttered about geological impossibility. Avner crossed himself silently despite mocking rituals earlier. Silence thickened. Ruth tested comms immediately. Her headset erupted in fractured tones, bursts resembling Hebrew, Urdu, and static interwoven. She whispered transcript fragments, though words contradicted themselves mid-sentence. Commander silenced her sharply, ordering equipment check. Still, vibrations in air pulsed audibly, like hidden heart beating beneath foundations. The descent tightened around us. Corridors narrowed unnaturally, angles pressing inward, though structural diagrams had suggested uniform tunnels. Oxygen masks hissed louder, breaths amplified into mechanical chorus. Shadows rippled ahead of flashlights, moving fractionally out of sync. Pausing half a second after our gestures ended, we reached reinforced blast door marked with fading stenciled Cyrillic, illegible except one phrase: "Do not proceed." Metal surface shone immaculate, uncorroded. Avner traced edges with gloved hand, declaring welds artificial, deliberately weakened. Commander ordered breach. Explosive charges whispered against silence, timed precisely for minimal resonance. The detonation came not with thunder but with muffled sigh, like fabric tearing underwater. Door slumped inward, exposing darkness far deeper than previous corridor. Our lamps flickered simultaneously, beams distorted, bending away from entry. For a moment, it seemed darkness actively rejected illumination altogether. Beyond threshold, chambers stretched vast, larger than dimensions suggested. Concrete gave way to stone walls, veins of quartz glowing faintly, lightless yet luminous. Air thickened, tasting copper. Geiger counters jittered, recording neither radiation nor silence, instead printing unreadable glyphs across paper spools, characters dissolving instantly when touched. Yitzhak whispered psalms more urgently now, words echoing unnaturally long. Commander raised fist, halting movement. From chamber depths came faint resonance, Not mechanical, not animal, but tonal, resembling choir of voices humming single endless note. Eliav's hands shook. Ruth's eyes widened, pupils dilated unnaturally wide. We advanced cautiously, boots crunching against gravel that emitted faint sparks with each step. Avner muttered uneasily, claiming static charge, yet sparks pulsed rhythmically, matching hum. My own heartbeat synchronized unwillingly, chest vibrating painfully against armor plates. The sensation was intimate, invasive, as though bunker itself breathed within us. At chamber center rose cylindrical structure resembling reactor core, surface etched with concentric glyphs glowing faint violet. Pipes extended outward like veins, pulsing faintly. No dust, no decay. Avner swore quietly. Machinery still active. Commander demanded photographs, yet cameras captured only blurred streaks resembling elongated human silhouettes. Eliav approached core, scanning readings. His voice trembled. Oxygen purity near 100%, impossible underground. He inhaled experimentally, then coughed violently, eyes watering. Air tastes wrong, he muttered. Too alive. Yitzhak restrained him, whispering calm prayers. Still, atmosphere pressed tighter, thick as fluid, suffocating even through filters. Commander ordered perimeter established. Ruth attempted uplink transmission, yet static surged violently, voices shrieking fragmented syllables. Among them, each of us distinctly heard our own names repeated. She tore headset off, shaking violently, whispering, "They know us already." Silence afterward became unbearable, heavier than before transmission. The deeper we moved, the more corridors branched impossibly, angles folding into themselves. Maps became useless. Compass needles spun freely. Each step extended beyond geometry, hallways looping into spirals. Concrete bled into raw stone. Our flashlights dimmed, though batteries remained full as if light surrendered willingly. At final junction, Commander raised palm again. Ahead, floor sloped into cavernous void, faintly luminescent from unseen source. Air shimmered like heat wave, though temperature remained freezing. Shadows stretched forward, not backward. Yitzhak whispered, "We are being invited." His words carried weight heavier than weapon steel. We fanned into formation, each angle of fire overlapping. Discipline maintained, though unease gnawed. The cavern floor was smooth, polished as though countless feet had worn it. Yet dust lingered untouched at edges, undisturbed for decades. Contradiction pressed heavily, unsettling logic. Instruments recorded nothing comprehensible. Avner tested wall density with controlled tap of knife. Stone rang like struck bell, reverberation unnatural, sustaining too long. Ruth adjusted headset nervously, whispering that reverberation carried signal patterns. Commander silenced her, yet sound lingered inside our ears, as though walls themselves remembered intrusion intimately. Eliav insisted on oxygen sampling again. His device displayed absurd readings: nitrogen collapse, oxygen saturation beyond survivability. Yet we breathed without suffocating. "Numbers are wrong," he muttered. Commander responded curtly, "Then trust lungs, not machines." Still, metallic taste worsened, coating tongues with unseen residue. We advanced deeper, noting parallel corridors, each identical yet subtly displaced, like mirror reflections slightly delayed. Flashlights revealed glyphs etched into ceilings, geometries spiraling inward. Yitzhak muttered psalms louder now, echo clashing against resonance of stone. His chant seemed both defiance and attempt at maintaining personal coherence. Routine protocol continued, photographic evidence collected, dosimeters logged, perimeter sweeps established. Yet every image blurred, instruments jittered, measurements shifted upon review. Data resisted preservation, as though reality refused transcription. Frustration bled into silence. Avner finally cursed aloud, words heavy, dissolving instantly like smoke swallowed by stone. Commander ordered rest interval. We crouched against wall, ration packs opened, food rehydrated improperly, textures altered, tasting like ash. Water shimmered again, surface refusing stillness. Eliav examined it under lens, jaw tightening. He whispered, "This is not water." He still drank, forcing swallow without explanation. Ruth broke silence softly. Voices are clearer when I close eyes, she admitted. Commander ordered her silence, but tremor crossed his tone. She continued anyway. They are asking why we came. Nobody replied. Even Avner's grin failed. Air vibrated with unanswered expectation, weight unbearable. Resuming patrol, shadows persisted in lagging behind movements. My own silhouette paused fraction longer before rejoining body. Panic threatened, suppressed only by drill discipline. I forced focus on boots, counting steps. 70 counted, yet distance traversed impossible. Hallway looping back onto itself seamlessly. Compass spun again. Final chamber of initial sweep revealed rusted scaffolding, collapsed consoles, remnants of Soviet equipment. Dials twisted, wires severed, yet faint hum persisted. Instruments glowed faintly, though unpowered. Elyav insisted machines were breathing. He placed hand against panel, withdrawing instantly as warmth pulsed like skin beneath. We documented everything, though certainty dissolved. Nothing aligned with training, physics, or sanity. Still, mission dictated procedure. Commander's voice cut final order. We continue. His jaw tightened visibly. I realized then, the greatest terror was not disturbance itself, but the cold insistence of routine. The first true anomaly occurred without sound. We turned a corner, corridor widening unexpectedly. Shadows detached from walls, reshaping into elongated forms before snapping back. Ruth gasped audibly, swearing silhouettes mouthed our names. Commander barked silence, yet I swear my own shadow whispered something personal, impossible. Avner tested space with flare. Flame sputtered violently, green instead of red, casting grotesque light across surfaces. Symbols on walls shimmered briefly, glowing faint violet, then fading once flare extinguished. For a moment, corridor resembled cathedral nave, as though sanctity coexisted with profane machinery. Silence returned heavy. Elyav staggered suddenly, clutching chest. His vitals showed normal on scanner, yet he gasped like drowning man. He whispered. Something pressed against my ribs from inside. We restrained him gently. Moments later, his breathing steadied, though sweat streaked visor. He avoided eye contact thereafter, refusing explanation. Our radios crackled simultaneously despite remaining switched off. Voices layered over static, repeating extraction compromised in alternating languages. Commander snapped orders to disable units. Still, voices persisted faintly through helmets themselves, vibrating against skull bones. Ruth trembled uncontrollably, biting lip until blood-dotted mask interior. Floor beneath us vibrated subtly, cadence matching human footsteps though no source approached. Lights flickered, elongating corridor impossibly. Yitzhak raised rifle instinctively, muttering psalms faster, words tumbling. For first time, Commander's composure cracked. His hand lingered on cigarette case before remembering fire would betray position. Attempting retreat to previous junction proved impossible. Corridors had reconfigured, folding behind us into new angles. Map overlays glitched, showing identical coordinates for separate hallways. Each turn led forward, never backward. Avner cursed, striking wall, only to recoil. Stone quivered like flesh, rippling beneath impact. Photographs taken immediately erased themselves, memory cards showing corrupted black static. Elyav scribbled frantically, yet graphite lines on page writhed faintly before settling. He tore sheet out, hiding it in vest pocket, unwilling to let others see what drawings attempted to replicate. Silence suffocated again. The disturbance culminated when faint chanting emerged from nowhere. Multiple voices in unison, toneless yet deliberate. Sound reverberated through helmets, bypassing ears, resonating in chest cavities. Words untranslatable, but cadence undeniable. Invocation or welcome. Commander raised fist signaling halt. We stood frozen, prey awaiting unseen host. The chanting ceased abruptly, replaced by silence thicker than air should permit. Our flashlights dimmed collectively, beams thinning into weak threads. Shadows pulsed outward, expanding and contracting like lungs. Each movement of ours was mimicked a fraction too late, as though another presence rehearsed our every gesture. Avner placed charge on wall fragment, intent to test structural density. Before detonation, Fresh footprints materialized in dust across floor, leading deeper ahead. They matched none of our boots, longer, narrower, toe alignment unnaturally precise. Commander ordered weapons raised. Ruth whispered, "They are already walking with us." We advanced cautiously, each step swallowed faster than sound should allow. Corridor lights, though powered by nothing, flickered rhythmically, like heartbeats synced with distant machinery. Eliav monitored vitals, reporting elevated heart rates across teams simultaneously. "Not fear," he muttered, "something synchronizing us deliberately." His voice trembled afterwards. Yitzhak abruptly halted, pointing weapon toward darkness. He swore he saw a figure move, a pale humanoid dissolving into shadow instantly. No evidence followed. Still, dread multiplied. Avner joked nervously about ghosts. Nobody laughed. Silence afterward became heavier than words. Ruth's headset hissed faintly, syllables half-formed, unfinished prayers. Our cameras continued failing. Images bled light unnaturally, creating streaks resembling skeletal faces. Avner smashed one camera in frustration. Commander ignored outburst, instead consulting compass futilely spinning. He whispered almost inaudibly, "We are not underground anymore." His words carried weight beyond metaphor. None dared respond. Ceiling above us rippled faintly, concrete bending like water surface. Droplets fell, though no moisture registered. Liquid struck helmets, sizzling faintly, evaporating instantly. Eliav collected sample. Vial cracked spontaneously, glass edges curling inward like melted wax. His notebook received another frantic sketch. He refused eye contact. We turned into chamber lined with mirrors framed in rusted steel. Each mirror reflected not present selves, but fragmented versions. Faces blurred, torsos extended, shadows elongated grotesquely. Ruth screamed, yanking headset away. Reflections mouthed her name in synchronization. Commander ordered immediate withdrawal, but corridor behind had vanished. Footprints returned, this time circling us, pressing dust inward, though no bodies visible. Their cadence accelerated, closing perimeter. Weapons trained in every direction. Chanting resumed softly, emanating directly from floor, vibrating upward. Yitzhak raised voice in psalm, verses clashing violently with chant until corridor itself seemed convulsing. Suddenly, lights flared white-hot, burning vision briefly. When vision cleared, corridor stretched longer than before, hundreds of meters extended instantly. At distant end, faint figure appeared again, humanoid but unnaturally tall, limbs jointed wrong. It did not advance. It only watched, still, patient, waiting. The figure remained motionless at corridor's end, silhouette unnervingly pale against infinite black. Commander signaled advance cautiously. Each step forward reduced distance impossibly slowly, as though floor stretched. Shadows resisted motion, pulling backward like anchors. Avner muttered curses, voice cracking. Ruth whispered, "It already knows our rhythm." When light steadied, figure resolved further. Humanoid frame elongated unnaturally, limbs disproportionate. Skin appeared translucent, veins glowing faintly violet, matching glyphs etched across walls. Eyes resembled empty sockets, yet emitted faint radiance. Its stillness was deliberate, carrying weight of invitation. Commander raised rifle slowly, hesitation evident. Eliav trembled, whispering clinical details despite fear. Circulatory system externalized. Skin not dermal tissue. His voice faltered when figure tilted head slightly, acknowledging him directly. My chest tightened violently as though lungs compressed externally. Air thickened, vibrating painfully. Radios clicked alive simultaneously, broadcasting our own breathing amplified grotesquely. Avner fired warning shot. Bullet streaked across corridor yet dissolved mid-air, evaporating into shimmering dust. Figure tilted again, head jerking unnaturally fast, mimicking recoil. Shadows along wall flickered violently, elongating into humanoid shapes matching our stances. Each shadow raised phantom weapons, mirroring, waiting without pulling triggers. Ruth collapsed to knees, headset emitting shrieks. She convulsed, repeating, "They are transmitting through me." Her voice alternated between her tone and layered others, Male, female, languages colliding. Commander ripped headset away, yet shrieking persisted directly through her throat, no equipment required. She screamed until silence crushed again. Entity finally moved, single step forward. Floor reverberated like struck drum. Symbols across corridor flared simultaneously, glowing violet, then shifting into crimson. Yitzhak shouted psalms desperately, words colliding with vibrations. Entity's limbs extended further, fingers splitting unnaturally, branching like roots, scraping walls. Sparks erupted where digits carved stone effortlessly. Eliav dropped notebook, clutching temples, whispering incoherently. Timelines collapsing, overlapping centuries. His eyes darted as though perceiving layers unseen. He described desert battles from different eras simultaneously, soldiers marching through corridor invisible to us. "It shows me everything," he gasped. Blood seeped faintly from nostrils afterward. Commander attempted direct communication, voice calm though strained. "Identify." Word echoed strangely, repeating backward immediately. Entity responded not with sound, but with shift. Walls bending inward, ceiling rippling downward. Shadows detached fully, humanoid silhouettes stepping forward, eyeless yet luminous. They surrounded us silently, reflections given physical substance. Avner readied detonator impulsively, charges primed earlier. Commander restrained him forcefully. Explosion risked collapse. Avner's fury cracked mask of bravado, tears streaking dust. "It is playing with us," he muttered repeatedly. His detonator hand shook violently, yet Commander's grip remained firm, unwilling to surrender control to panic. Entity extended arm slowly, hand stopping inches from Ruth, who trembled violently. Without contact, her body lifted slightly, suspended, eyes rolled white. Her voice emitted static-laden chant identical to earlier resonance. Entity lowered hand. Ruth collapsed, alive yet hollow-eyed, whispering endlessly. Transmission received. Transmission received. For a final moment before withdrawal, Entity's eyes flared intensely. Corridor dissolved visually into shifting landscapes, Soviet barracks, ancient desert fortresses, collapsed futuristic ruins, all layered simultaneously. Time fractured visibly. We staggered under impossible weight, vision blurred, yet Entity remained central, constant observer across shifting centuries, indifferent sentinel awaiting trespassers. Commander ordered retreat, voice stern but trembling. Entity did not follow. Shadows dissipated reluctantly, retreating into walls. Symbols dimmed to violet again. Silence returned, but not emptiness. Silence now pulsed with memory, as though walls retained fragments of us, archived for purposes beyond human comprehension. Retreat felt impossible. Corridors bent impossibly, returning us toward chamber we sought to escape. Oxygen masks hissed louder, breaths no longer synchronized with lungs, but with unseen rhythm beneath stone. Each inhalation tasted metallic, electric. Eliav whispered, "We are breathing its exhalations." Nobody contradicted him anymore. Ruth staggered forward without command, eyes glazed, repeating mechanical tones. Her words alternated between fractured Hebrew codes and guttural syllables unrecognized by any language. She pressed fingers against wall symbols, which pulsed brighter under touch. Flesh along her hands shimmered translucent, veins glowing like circuitry. Avner snapped, detonator in hand, desperate to reclaim agency. He planted charge near glyph cluster. Commander protested too late. Explosion erupted, sound twisted, muffled into harmonic chord instead of blast. Debris dissolved mid-air into ash. Glyphs reassembled seamlessly. Avner screamed, realizing demolition had been absorbed, repurposed. From then, he changed. His eyes dilated permanently, movements erratic, yet mechanical. He began tapping sequences unconsciously on rifle stock, rhythmic detonations without explosives. Each tap resonated through chamber, echoes spiraling into infinite depth. Shadows mirrored taps simultaneously, as if his reckless precision now fueled their cadence. Elisav collapsed, overwhelmed by visions. He described anatomy from centuries unrecorded. Creatures with triple circulatory systems, lungs externalized, human torsos grafted with insect carapaces. He scribbled across notebook frantically, diagrams overlapping like palimpsests. His voice fluctuated between calm analysis and shrieking awe, oscillating violently, incapable of halting transcription. Yitzhak alone maintained composure outwardly. Yet his psalms changed tone, blending Hebrew verses with alien syllables. He denied mixing languages, yet recordings confirmed hybrid chants. His shadow elongated further than others, splitting into multiple outlines that chanted alongside him, creating choir of echoes beyond his mouth. Commander clung to discipline. Cigarette remained unlit between fingers, shaking visibly. He barked orders with growing desperation, forcing formation despite corridors rewriting themselves. His rationality cracked slowly. Eyes betrayed terror each time compass spun violently. Still, his commands anchored us, final thread preventing total dissolution. The entity returned, not physically but through environment. Walls pulsed like organs, floor vibrated with heartbeat. Oxygen surged unnaturally, lungs overfilled painfully. We gasped for release, drowning in abundance. Ruth collapsed, convulsing as static burst from throat, transmitting incomprehensible coordinates endlessly. Commander silenced her with trembling palm. Avner's tapping escalated, uncontrollable. Patterns corresponded with glyphs which blazed crimson. Shadows advanced, overlapping us, entering bodily outlines. My chest compressed violently, as though double heartbeat resided within. Eliav screamed incoherently, claiming his skeleton was being rewritten. He convulsed, arms jerking into unfamiliar angles, briefly dislocating before snapping back. Yitzhak raised voice louder than before, chants shaking chamber itself. Shadows halted momentarily, retreating slightly. Yet his psalms distorted, melodies bending into unfamiliar tonal structures. He wept while chanting, realizing his faith was being rewritten through him. Still he continued, weapon trembling yet never lowered, defiance transmuted into surrender. Cameras captured nothing comprehensible, just streaks of distorted light, shapes unfathomable. Yet I recall vividly, walls splitting to reveal corridors leading into void starscapes, then sealing instantly. Time fractured. Our watches displayed different centuries. One showed 1967, another 2043. Commander smashed his watch furiously, refusing to acknowledge collapse. Entity revealed itself through us. Ruth became conduit of transmissions, voice ceasing to belong. Avner became weapon without explosives, his rhythms detonating perception. Eliav turned archivist of impossible biology, pages filling faster than ink could dry. Yitzhak sang hybrid psalms rewriting reality. Commander remained rational, crumbling inside unseen. I felt change within myself too. Memories fractured, childhood streets in Jerusalem folding into unfamiliar ruins. My own reflection in helmet visor lingered after I moved, smiling faintly though my lips stayed still. Terror hollowed me, yet duty commanded continued observation, documentation, survival if possible. Rationality clung desperately. At climax of escalation, corridor dissolved around us into infinite chamber of shifting geometry. Symbols floated mid-air, revolving like constellations. Shadows surrounded, hundreds now, each mirroring us perfectly, delay diminishing, until indistinguishable. Entity nowhere visible, yet presence overwhelming, patient, sculpting us into fragments of its archive. Commander shouted retreat. Shadows parted reluctantly, allowing corridor to reappear. We stumbled blindly, altered, half ourselves. Ruth whispered endless coordinates. Avner tapped detonations. Eliav scribbled alien anatomies. Yitzhak chanted hybrid psalms. We carried contamination within bones. Entity permitted departure, indifferent, as though we were notes added to symphony. The retreat carried us not outward but deeper, corridors twisting deliberately. Commander's voice cracked, ordering discipline. Ruth collapsed again, repeating coordinates in flat tones, eyes glowing faintly. Avner's tapping intensified uncontrollably, detonating echoes until chamber vibrated violently. Eliav screamed incoherently, sketching on walls with trembling, bloodied fingertips. We burst into vast chamber unlike previous corridors, ceiling vanishing into darkness, floor patterned with glyphs forming concentric rings. At center stood monolith of black stone, surface reflective yet rippling faintly like liquid. Each reflection showed us differently, Aged, broken, monstrous, distorted echoes of unchosen futures. Entity materialized beside monolith, tall frame luminous. Limbs split further, branching like trees. Its radiance pulsed in harmony with glyphs, synchronizing with Avner's rhythm, Ruth's coordinates, Eliav's frantic sketches, Yitzhak's psalms. We realized with dawning horror, we were components, instruments within its orchestration. Commander raised weapon, unloading entire magazine. Bullets dissolved instantly into glyphs, spiraling upward as glowing symbols. Entity tilted head, studying calmly, unaffected. Commander dropped rifle, shoulders shaking violently. His cigarette fell, unlit, crushed beneath boot. His rationality finally cracked, eyes wet with helpless fury at futility. Yitzhak advanced, chanting defiantly. Shadows surged but halted when his voice rose. For a moment, chamber wavered. Glyphs dimmed slightly. Entity focused upon him, eyes radiating brighter. His psalm faltered, syllables morphing involuntarily into alien words. He wept openly, realizing faith transmuted. Still he continued chanting, voice breaking, surrendering. Eliav approached monolith uncontrollably, hands tracing patterns, sketching directly upon its surface. His diagrams aligned perfectly with glyphs, though he claimed not to understand. "It is teaching through me," he muttered in awe, pupils blown wide. Blood dripped from his nose onto stone, absorbed instantly, pulsing brighter. Ruth convulsed violently, body arching upward as coordinates screamed from throat. Voice fractured into static, then into chorus of overlapping tones. She collapsed weightlessly afterward, whispering, "Transmission complete." Commander tried shaking her awake. Her eyes stared through him, recognition absent. She breathed, but her identity dissolved irreversibly. Avner pressed detonator once more, desperate. Explosives planted earlier triggered simultaneously. Chamber erupted with soundless explosion, light blooming unnaturally. Instead of destruction, blast froze midair, suspended sparks forming crystalline lattice above us. Entity extended arm, absorbing entire detonation into chest, radiance intensifying. Avner collapsed, sobbing, detonator useless plastic. I felt pressure within skull, visions forced inside, ancient civilizations kneeling before same monolith, soldiers from countless wars entering chamber, each altered irrevocably. None resisted successfully. All became fragments. I realized futility of defiance. It was not enemy, not ally, but archivist eternal, indifferent. Entity finally reached toward Commander, his body stiffened, eyes rolling white. He gasped, words forcing through lips unwilling. "We are cataloged." Then Entity released him, leaving him trembling, alive yet hollowed. Monolith pulsed once, glyphs collapsing inward. Chamber walls shifted, revealing corridor sloping upward. Exit prepared deliberately, invitation undeniable. We staggered away, broken fragments of ourselves. Entity remained, luminous and still, patient. Shadows receded reluctantly. Glyphs dimmed. Silence returned heavy, yet silence now carried memory of contact. Inevitable, irreversible. We had not breached environment. We had been breached instead, rewritten as annotations within infinite archive. The upward corridor twisted endlessly, yet we climbed, stumbling like wounded animals. Each step dragged heavy as though gravity multiplied. Watches malfunctioned entirely, hands spinning uncontrollably. Ruth whispered continuously, voice reduced to static-laden mutters. Avner tapped hollow detonations. Eliav scribbled furiously even while staggering blindly forward. Walls convulsed subtly, pushing us along rather than resisting. Path emerged only where we stepped, as if structure anticipated movement. Commander barked orders automatically, though tone hollow, lifeless. His words lacked authority, repeated mechanically. We obeyed anyway, desperate for direction even from fractured command. Air thinned suddenly, replaced by suffocating metallic taste. Our lungs heaved violently. Oxygen gauges read contradictory data, some registering overflow, others depletion. Eliav gasped hysterically, claiming molecules reversed orientation. He collapsed briefly, clawing at throat. Yitzhak dragged him upward, chanting hybrid psalms louder, echo battling oppressive silence surrounding. Footsteps pursued behind, though unseen. Shadows clung stubbornly, delayed a fraction, then surged closer. Corridor stretched and shrank simultaneously, geometry convulsing. At moments, I saw daylight ahead. Next instant, horizon receded infinitely. Fatigue broke discipline. Panic gnawed. Yet entity did not strike. It herded patiently, deliberately. When Hatch appeared finally, steel gleamed immaculate, untouched by dust. Avner screamed, pounding fists. It opened voluntarily, hinges sighing softly. We burst outward into desert night. Yet world outside was wrong. Stars misaligned, air shimmering metallic, sand reflecting colors impossible to describe without betraying sanity. Chronometers contradicted violently. Our descent had lasted 14 hours. Surface clocks indicated 20 minutes only. Time collapsed upon itself, fractured, mockery of continuity. Ruth whispered coordinates ceaselessly. Avner clawed sand, insisting it moved beneath him. Eliav scribbled frantically by moonlight, pages overflowing with alien anatomies incomprehensible. Desert horizon flickered unnaturally. Shadows bent wrong, stretching upward instead of downward. Our own silhouettes wavered, occasionally splitting into multiples. Air shimmered green, metallic tang saturating lungs. Yitzhak lifted rifle instinctively, though no target visible. His psalm faltered, voice cracking, replaced with guttural alien syllables without intention. Commander signaled extraction beacon reluctantly. His voice over transmitter was steady but eyes vacant. Response arrived instantly, too quickly. Extraction team reported proximity, voices unnervingly calm. Helicopter blades thundered soon after, yet sound felt detached. Not natural turbulence, but mechanical chant disguised as rotor rhythm. We boarded regardless, too broken for refusal. Sandstorm erupted behind, though sky above remained clear. Shadows clung still, trailing edges of helicopter, stretching across desert like elongated scars. I realized then escape was permitted intentionally. Entity had cataloged us fully. Survival was irrelevant indulgence. Inside helicopter, reality fractured further. Avner's right arm dissolved without wound, vanishing at elbow as if erased cleanly by unseen editor. No blood, no pain, only empty sleeve fluttering. He stared blankly, whispering, "It took nothing, yet everything." His laughter afterward was brittle, deranged. Ruth's voice no longer belonged to her. Every word emerged distorted, tones mechanical, oscillating like radio static. She attempted prayer, yet syllables fractured into electronic screeches. Commander silenced her gently, but static persisted even while lips remained closed, proof she had become permanent transmitter for something. Eliav's condition worsened. His notebook expanded uncontrollably, pages filling with medical knowledge scrambled beyond centuries, descriptions of anatomy not belonging to humanity, cures referencing civilizations unborn. He wept uncontrollably, whispering, "I cannot remember human bones." His scientific calm collapsed entirely, identity rewritten into alien archive unwillingly. Yitzhak, once steadfast, sat silently. His eyes stared vacant, memory stripped clean. When questioned about chamber or entity, he replied only, "Empty facility, nothing inside." His psalm ceased entirely. Shadow trailing him twitched faintly, independent of body, singing softly with voice stolen from forgotten centuries. Commander appeared intact outwardly, yet his voice betrayed emptiness. He repeated sanitized report lines involuntarily. Mission confirmed, facility vacant, no anomalies encountered. His rationality had become compromised conduit, forced to speak lies automatically. Cigarette case lay crushed in hand, symbol of resistance extinguished permanently within. I remained damaged differently, memories fractured, reality bending around edges. My reflection no longer followed synchronously, occasionally smiling when I did not. Yet duty compelled me to document. I realized each of us bore irreversible alterations, evidence undeniable. Still, governments would erase, suppress, archive truth mercilessly. Extraction unfolded with unnatural smoothness. Base officers greeted us calmly, too calmly, as though prepared before arrival. Their faces betrayed no shock at injuries, no concern for anomalies. Procedures commenced immediately, sterile, rehearsed. My unease deepened. We were specimens returning to handlers, not soldiers rescued. Medical examinations proved chillingly clinical. Avner's missing arm received no attention beyond superficial notes, as though absence expected. Ruth's static-toned speech elicited no alarm. Technicians transcribed frequencies meticulously. Eliav's notebook was confiscated instantly, officers ignoring his screams. Yitzhak's memory loss recorded as psychological exhaustion. Reports concluded sterilely. Commander delivered debrief mechanically, repeating sanctioned line. Facility vacant. Mission inconclusive. Words tumbled with unnatural precision, identical each time, as though programmed. When he attempted deviation, tongue twisted involuntarily, reshaping phrases back into lie. His face revealed torment, mouth enslaved to suppression. Witnessing shattered me further. I too was questioned. Whenever truth approached my lips, vocabulary warped into falsity. Empty corridors, I said involuntarily, despite memories of glyphs and shadows. Officers nodded approvingly. My chest burned with betrayal, realizing truth itself had been overwritten. Our voices became instruments of concealment beyond our will. Files labeled Operation Rising Lion vanished into non-existent archives. Evidence erased systematically. Photographs corrupted, radiation logs rewritten. Witness statements edited until nothing remained except sterile dismissal. Eliav begged to testify authentically, yet his words spilled alien anatomies. Officers smiled coldly, assigning him indefinite medical seclusion without record. Avner was reassigned quietly to Weapons Development Division despite disability, his rhythmic tapping exploited for testing resonance frequencies. Ruth disappeared into communications facility. Rumor whispered she interfaced directly with machines, her static voice deciphering encrypted transmissions. Yitzhak retired forcibly, memories replaced, identity reduced to harmless veteran. Commander received promotion, though hollow, eyes dead. His presence symbolized obedience perfected, rational soldier mutilated into bureaucratic mouthpiece. He never lit cigarette again. Instead, he carried empty case, thumb-tracing edges compulsively. Observers interpreted as habit. I knew it symbolized soul's smoldering ember extinguished. I was discharged under pretense of psychological instability, forced into obscurity. Files sealed, testimony suppressed, yet memories refuse erasure. Shadows linger still, stretching across my apartment, whispering fragments of psalms, coordinates, detonations. Government may bury archives. Entity requires no archives. Entity records directly within marrow of survivors. Nights are longest now. I sit alone in my quarters, curtains drawn, pen-scratching words never meant for archives. Shadows stretch across walls independently, moving though no light changes. Sometimes additional limbs appear briefly. Elongated fingers tapping rhythm. Echoes of Avner's detonations returned endlessly within silence. Electronics betray me constantly. Television flickers static, not channels. Within static, brief flashes display containment logs, countdowns, and alien numerals. Laptop boots into files I never wrote. Diagrams identical to Eliav's impossible anatomies. Symbols crawl across screen, rearranging faster than comprehension, dissolving instantly upon reading. Lights flicker irregularly, not electricity faltering but deliberate communication. Bulbs glow with symbols instead of brightness, alien glyphs embedded within filament. Shadows respond, convulsing violently, reshaping. Sometimes they whisper Yitzhak's psalms distorted with alien syllables. Other times silence suffocates, heavier than any scream memory still retains. At night I hear footsteps in hallway, too heavy for humans, echoing like machinery against marrow. Door trembles subtly under weight. Peering through keyhole reveals nothing, only blackness pressing outward. Still, footsteps persist, pacing patiently. They never force entry as though entity savors inevitability, prolonging anticipation deliberately. My wristwatch betrays me worst. Numbers shift into impossible hours, sometimes centuries ahead. Shadows cast wrong entirely, stretching toward ceiling, bending corners. Time fractured permanently. Each tick resonates louder, synchronized with distant hum only I hear. Entity's rhythm echoing, still cataloging, still patient, never departing. I write final words despite futility, testimony doomed to suppression. Governments may erase archives, but entity requires no bureaucracy. It waits inside marrow, within shadows, within silence. Humanity imagines dominion, yet entity's indifference is eternal. It requires nothing. It observes patiently. It archives inevitably. The entity does not need to destroy us. It only waits for us to finish destroying ourselves.